Hi Al, hi May, this is Uncle Josh. I know I was supposed to read a story for you guys, so I'm gonna read this one with Curious George. So I think this one is him going to the library. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, this is George. I know you guys have seen him a few times already. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were at the library. So there they are going into the library. Looks like there's going to be some sort of story hour thing. Okay. So George had never been to the library before. He had never seen so many books before either. Everywhere he looked, people were reading. Some people read quietly to themselves, but in the children's room, the librarian was reading out loud. Got all the books and all the people reading. And there's where the story hour is going to happen. So it was story hour. George loved stories. He sat down with a group of children to listen. The librarian was reading a book about a bunny. George really liked bunnies. You can see there's the bunny rabbit right there. She's reading, and there's the man with the yellow hat saying bye to George. And all the other children sitting around reading. And behind the librarian was a book about a dinosaur. George liked dinosaurs even more. He hoped she would read it next. Look at that, Elle. Even George likes dinosaurs. That's cool, huh? But the librarian read a book about a train. So there's the train one next right there. And George tried to sit quietly and wait for the dinosaur book to be read, but sometimes it was hard for a little monkey to be patient. Look at that, he's getting all restless and anxious and angsty. Uh-oh. So when the librarian started a story about jungle animals, George could not wait any longer. He had to see the dinosaur book. So he tiptoed closer. Like there he is, tiptoeing behind her. "Look, a monkey!" shouted a girl. The librarian put her finger to her lips. We must be quiet so everyone can hear," she said nicely. "But there's a monkey," said a boy. The librarian nodded and smiled. "Mm-hmm," she agreed. See, like there's a monkey in the book, so the teacher must think that that there's just a monkey in the book, but the kids are seeing George behind him. When she finished reading the jungle story, the librarian reached for the dinosaur book. Where did it go? And where was George? Uh-oh. There he goes. Oh, there he has the dinosaur book. George was all ready to take the dinosaur book home and read it with his friend when another book caught his eye. This book was about trucks. George wanted to take it home too. And here was a book about elephants. George loved elephants. He added it to his pile. Now he's got a book about trucks, elephants, and dinosaurs. Wow. George found so many books, he soon had more than he could carry. He leaned against the shelf to rest. Squeak went the shelf. Shh, said a man. Oh, he's getting angry because George is making a disruption in the library. Squeak went the shelf again, and it moved. Why, it wasn't really a shelf after all. George found a special cart for carrying books. There's a little cart seat. It's got wheels on it, so he can push his books around. What luck! Now George could carry all the books he wanted. He rolled the cart between the shelves and stacked up books about boats and kites and baking cakes. He climbed higher to reach books about cranes and planes. Like all these books he's got. There's this one here is about cakes. It's kind of hard to see. That one's about boats right there. You can see a little boat on it. And there's kites right there. And there's one about planes at the top. Wow, look at all these books that he's got. He's crazy. How's he going to have time to read all these books? At last, George had all the books he could handle. He couldn't wait to head home and start reading. And right in front of him was a ramp leading to the door. George was curious. Could he roll the cart all the way home? Uh-oh. Down the ramp, George went. Look at that, he's flying down there. The cart rolled faster and faster. Stop, a library volunteer shouted. Come back here with my cart. But George was too excited to listen. The cart was picking up speed, and George was having fun. Uh-oh. George is out here committing a crime. Until crash. George and the cart ran smack into the shelf of encyclopedias. Oh no, those were the boring books. Books flew up in the air, and so did George. He landed in a big pile right between O and P. Oh man, look at him. All these poor books flying all over the place. There's his truck book, his elephant book, his kites, his planes. All the books are just flying everywhere. And looks like this granny over here is very shocked by what's going on. Oh no, moaned the volunteer when he saw the mess George had made. How am I going to put away all these books? I'd like to borrow this one, said a boy from Story Hour. And I'll take this one, said a girl. Look, they're helping kind of clean up here. There's the kite one again. And the trucks. And George is looking great with his little book on top of his head. With help from George and the children, the books were sorted in no time. Soon, there was a small pile of George's favorite books left. Would you like to take those books home with you? The volunteer asked George. Then he took George to a special desk and helped him get his very own library card. Wow, look at that. It even says Curious George on it right there. It's probably hard for you guys to see, but right there it says Curious George. He got his own library card. George was holding his brand new card when his friend arrived with a stack of books of his own. There you are, George, he said. I see you're all ready to check out. Oh, he doesn't know what George has been through this whole time, does he? George and his friend gave their books to the librarian. She smiled when she saw George's pile. I was wondering where this dinosaur book went, she said. It's one of my favorites, too. Oh, I guess she was the one who was reading the books during story time. The librarian stamped the books and handed them back to George. What else has he got there? It looks like he has, he's got his elephant book, his dinosaur, the trucks. Those are the three that he's got. With his books under one arm, George waved goodbye to the volunteer, the librarian, and the children from Story Hour. Look at them all. They're saying, bye, George. Come see us again, George, the librarian said, waving back. Enjoy your books. Everybody's happy. Look at that. And he did. Look at that. The man with the yellow hat and George get to read the dinosaur book. And that's the end, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully my voice wasn't too monotone or anything. Even I was entertained by that, so hopefully it was for you guys too. Anyway, lots of love to you, both you guys, and hopefully I see you guys sometime soon. Okay, bye.